preferred stock. Preferred stock has a lot of vocabulary that goes with it. Preferred stock, well, first of all, why is it preferred? It can have a preference as to dividends. In other words, the preferred stockholders are entitled to receive their dividend before the common stockholders get their dividend. So they have a preference as to dividends. They also have a preference as far as liquidation goes. If the company is liquidated, the preferred stockholders are ahead of the common stockholders in line to get what they can out of the company. So preferred has a couple of preferences. The dividend for a preferred stock is stated in terms of a percentage of its par value. So 5% preferred means that stock pays a 5% dividend. So to compute the amount of a dividend for this stock, we have 10,000 shares times $100 par, and so that would give you the value that you would have on your balance sheet for your preferred stock, and it would be $1 million. So in order to compute the dividend, you're taking the number of shares outstanding times the par value, gives you the value of the preferred stock, and then you simply go times 5% to get the annual dividend, which would be $50,000. That would be your annual dividend. So that would be the amount of the preferred dividend due to the preferred stockholders. So the preferred stock can be cumulative or non-cumulative. If it is non-cumulative, what that means is if the board of directors, if doesn't declare a dividend, then when they do declare a dividend, the preferred stockholders just get the current year dividend before the common stockholders get anything. If you have cumulative preferred, that means that if there haven't been dividends declared in the past years, the preferred stockholders are entitled to receive the annual dividend for all prior years before the common stockholders get anything. So if this stock was cumulative preferred and no dividends had been paid for 2013 and 2014, and now it's 2015 and they finally declare a dividend, the cumulative preferred stockholders would be entitled to $50,000 for this year, $50,000 for this year, and $50,000 for this year, or a total of $150,000 before the common stockholders could get their dividend. When dividends have not been declared and you have cumulative preferred stock, they're referred to as dividends in arrears. Not a liability, but it is reported in the notes to the financial statements. The only time that dividends become a liability is once they have been declared. So dividends in arrears, not a liability. I'm sure that will be a trick question you will run into at some point. Okay, so let's just do exercise 11.6. That's just a quick example of this. The company issues 5,000 shares of preferred stock. Okay, so this is the Garb Inc. They issue 5,000 shares, and the par value, it's $100 par value, and they issue these shares, and they're issuing it at $130 per share. That's the market price per share when the stock is issued. So to do the journal entry, we would record cash, and it would be the 5,000 shares times $130 market value. Okay, so we got $650,000. That would be your debit. And then we would do preferred stock. And we would go, okay, it's 5,000 shares, but times the par value, that's all that's attributed to the preferred stock itself. So that would be 500,000. which means that we have paid in capital, and I'm going to paid in capital in excess of par value on our preferred stock of $150,000. Okay. So that was brief exercise 11.6. Okay. So that's that gives you an example of how that's set up. If we look at exercise 11.6, this one gives us a little bit of practice on paying the dividend. So in exercise 11.6, they issued 100,000 shares and it's $20 par, and this stock is cumulative. See why it's so important to get all the vocab down in this chapter. There's just a lot of it. And it's, let's see, 6% preferred. And if you take these a piece at a time, it's not quite as overwhelming. And they issued it on January 1, 4, and they just give you the total amount, not a per share amount, $2.3 million. Okay, so we can sort this out. It's 1-1, and we got some cash, and they tell us how much, so we don't even have to do anything there. And then we have our preferred stock, and the only amount that we attribute to that would be the $20 par. Okay, we issued 100,000 shares times the par value. So that comes out to $2 million. And so we have paid in capital in excess of par value on our preferred stock of the difference, which is 300,000. Okay, so now they say we want to pay the dividend assuming the stock is not cumulative. So 12/31, we're going to pay the dividend. So they declared their first dividend of $500,000. So the total dividend is $500,000. Now, since this is cumulative preferred, the preferred stockholders get their cut first, and this is going to be allocated between the common and the preferred stock. So this is the total dividend of $500,000. So how much does the preferred stockholders get? Well, this is the amount of preferred stock. Okay, it's the number of shares times the par. So we would go the 2 million. Come over here to do this. The 2 million in preferred stock. It is 6%, so you go times 0.06, and that gives you the annual dividend for the preferred stockholder, which would be $120,000. Okay, and that would be their annual preferred dividend. So if it were non-cumulative stock, our journal entry would be preferred dividends, and then we would have our common dividends. Actually, we would probably, let me do this a little bit differently. We would have cash dividends as opposed to stock dividends. Okay, so we'd have cash dividends and preferred, and we would have cash dividends common. Okay, so the preferred amount, if it's non-cumulative, would just be for 1 year, and then the rest of 380 would go to the common stockholders. Oop, I need one more zero there. Okay, and then we would have our, actually at this point where it was just declared, we would have our dividends payable of the 500,000. Okay, Now, if it were cumulative preferred, it says if it were cumulative preferred and they hadn't paid a dividend for the first, since for the first couple of years, this is in 2016 they're working. So in that case, this would be a little bit different. They would have to pay 3 years of dividends, the past 2 years plus this year. So they would pay $360 to the preferred stockholders. The common stockholders would get $140. Okay, so that's just, they would have to pay this times the 3 years, the 2 past years plus this year, if it is cumulative. Okay, so I hope that makes some sense on the preferred stock. In my notes, it tells you a little bit about the larger implications of preferred stock, and the point there is that it has a lot of the same characteristics as debt, and so you may want to just read over that just for for your own purposes, just to help better understand what preferred stock is about.